Hello, this is Pastor Tiffany. I'm so glad you're joining us for worship today. Welcome to Brunswick Cumberland Presbyterian Church.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my light. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, I thy true Son. Thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. Be thou my battle shield, sword for the fight. Be thou my dignity, thou my delight. Thou my soul's shelter, thou my high tower. Raise thou me heavenward, O power of my power. Riches I heed not, no man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance, now and always. Thou and thou only, first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art. High King of heaven, my victory won. May I reach heaven's joy, O bright heaven's sun. Heart of my own heart, whate'er befall, still be my vision, O ruler of all.
In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness God called night. And there was evening and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together God called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky." So God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves, of every kind, with which the waters swarm, and every winged bird of every kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things, and wild animals of the earth of every kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals of the earth of every kind, and the cattle of every kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground of every kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created the humanity, Adam, in God's image. In the image of God, God created him, it, male and female, God created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, and everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw everything that God had made, and indeed, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their multitude. And on the seventh day, God finished the work that God had done, and God rested on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that God had done in creation. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created.
God is love. What does that statement mean to you?
You know, that's a good thing to talk about, because I believe we are trapped in what I call a Valentine's Day notion of love, which is almost entirely infatuation, romantic attraction, which, as you know, cannot be sustained long haul. And here's again where I think we need a good understanding of God to define love correctly, if God is love. And what we see in the Trinity is God is relationship itself. So it's how you connect, not what you connect with, but how you connect with anything. I think we have the quote in the book from Teresa of Avila, who says, once you get it, even a sardine can convert you. It's how you relate to the sardine that is salvation, not any object in itself. So when you relate to something center to center, subject to subject, you allow it dignity and you grant yourself that same dignity. That's what it means to know something center to center. Now that's really contemplation. That's what a contemplative is. We go beyond the superficial of skin color and gender identity and all these stuff and say, image of God. So let me try, I think I have in the book that quote from a 12th century monk in Paris, Richard of St. Victor, probably a name you've never heard of. But he's one of the great teachers on the Trinity, where it's still alive in the 11th and 12th century. And he says, for God to be good, God can be one. You can have a good God. For God to be loving, there has to be two, because love is always a relationship. God cannot be loving if God is a monad, if God is a solitary. Once you think about that, wow, that expands my notion of what love really is. But then he goes further. He says, for God to be joy or happiness, God has to be three. And those of you who are married men or married people probably can understand this. When two people are excited about the same thing together, even a sunset or a meal or anything, that's what makes you happy. You can't enjoy happiness apart from a relationship and enlightened eyes that allow the object to give you joy, to give you purpose. So if we're going to say God is love, Richard of St. Victor would say God has to be at least happy love. God has to be three. Interesting, huh? Just another window on this infinite mystery. A number of theologians have predicted that the next 100 years in the theological world, but hopefully it'll filter down, is going to be finally a discovery of the immense cosmological and pastoral significance of the doctrine of the Trinity. And we're the first generation prepared to understand that, because we're the first generation that had microscopes and telescopes. In other words, we now look at the galaxies and we look at atoms and we realize that everything in the known universe in between is all relational. It's all the mystery of relationship. Things circling around one another. And the power, I mean, a good atomic physicist will tell you this, the power in the atom is, just like the Trinity, is not in the three particles, but in the relationship between the three particles. And you can't capture it, you can't measure it, you can't name it, you can't grab it. It's all just mystery. The bigger, better microscopes we get, they keep discovering smaller particles. And then that particle is in relationship to another particle. We haven't gotten to the smallest yet. And we haven't gotten to the final galaxy yet. But what we do see is that the pattern of Trinity is indeed the pattern of the universe. And that what Genesis says is right. We were created in the image and likeness of God. And my entire body is just, how many trillion cells? My little one body. And all these cells are living in relationship to one another. And we say we're in control or we're in charge. I can't continue this in being 1 minute. It's being given to me as a total mystery. So I hate to biologize it or cosmologize it so quickly, but that's what I mean by the implications of the doctrine of the Trinity as the pattern, the template of the whole universe is actually rather obvious right now. And we're the first century that's been able to say that. That it's not just a theological, abstract, metaphysical doctrine. It's now the nature of the known universe. That's good stuff. Every level of the universe is order in a dance with disorder. And it collapses back into the disorder, and out of that comes a new order again. And then you see most Christians with this obsession with order. Your faith isn't going to go very deep, because as soon as your little mental order has been a little bit disturbed, you fight. We're not going to get very far, brothers and sisters, with that very immature notion of faith. And the scientists call it chaos theory, as you know, and we would call it the darkness of faith. You move into a new level of darkness. If you can accept that, surrender to that, you, after a while, find a new pattern. Wow, it's very exciting. But it's scary. I want to be honest. I don't live this every day. I fight it. I'm used to my order at my age, and someone breaks it. I don't like it. But I do know when I can surrender to it and not fight it, I always become a wiser man. Maybe it takes 3 months, but I become a wiser man.
So it's called Trinity Sunday, and this answers exactly your question. If the triune poet was inviting us through creation, what would that invitation be? Is exactly what it would be. In the beginning, not in time or space, but in the quick before both space and time, in life, in love, in coherent grace, in 3 in 1, in 1 in 3, in rhyme, in music, in the whole creation story, in his own image, his imagination, the triune poet makes us for his glory and makes us each the other's inspiration. He calls us out of darkness, chaos, chance, to improvise a music of our own, to sing the chord that calls us to the dance, 3 notes resounding from a single tone, to sing the end in whom we all begin, our God, beyond, beside us, and within.